I'm Magnus Hawthorne, and this is Dungeons by Design, where I answer your important fan mail as a mentor, as an editor, and as a friend. Let's get into it. Let's see what we have here. Dear Magnus, do you prefer high fantasy or horror? That's a very good question. It's very interesting. If done properly, high fantasy and horror can be interchangeable. I lean a little bit more toward horror, right? But then I shift away and I think to myself, that's a little basic. How about high fantasy with the framework of horror? And most people look at high fantasy as kind of power fantasy. Whereas I look at it as, what if these people believe themselves to be hero, but they are stripped of all of their agency and power and are folded into a narrative that will force them to elevate themselves and the story to the next level. And what do you mean by that, Magnus, you might be asking? By carefully and meticulously framing things in such a way that make it undesirable to deviate from the story, but also undesirable to fold into the story. You create the necessary tension to make horror and high fantasy rather simultaneous. And that's how I like to run things. Next question. Dear Magnus, who cut your hair? My mom wants to know. Well, I go to a barber, and kind of a guys club in there, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure if your mom would like to hang out with a bunch of guys at a guy's barber shop. I mean, there's plenty of hair salons out there, so just feel like maybe that feminine energy might not be the best exchange. Yeah, it's a real manly place in there. Men stay there. Next question. Dear Magnus, how do you handle a player who missed a session? Oh, if you didn't know already. Well, there needs to be a lot of dialogue about that. So typically I like to have good ways to contact my player, good communication. I like to have their email, phone number, home address, place of work. Ways that I can get in contact with them and make sure that the investment I've made in my narrative is not to be sacrificed on a whim. And it's not so much that the game is more important than they are. It is that I have invested in them, right? And there needs to be a return on that investment. So missing a session is not allowed. If I am feeling generous, they're simply never allowed back at my table. But everyone knows going into it, and also typically in the 17-page waiver I have them sign, it is noted that should you not contact me in due time, I am perfectly within my rights to contact your work and let your employer know about some of your behavior. So, yeah, don't miss sessions, all right? It's very hard on your DM, who's just looking out for you and trying to do the best they can to make a mutual investment pay off. Next question. Dear Magnus, when will we see more of Mitchell? Well, you know, I think he did his arm made it into shot once. And I don't know why that made the final cut. Somebody must be responsible for that. But Mitchell's more of, what would you think? Okay, well, I was going to lean into the idea that you're more of a behind the camera man. But I kind of don't like now that you're talking about you'd like to be on set. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, this isn't the Dungeons by Design with Mitchell Hawthorne. Oh, okay. All right, so no, this is my show. right? If you want to do your show, you do your show, okay? But yeah, no, I don't think you'll be seeing any of Mitchell on my show, unfortunately. Well, I think that is all the time we have for today. And again, due to our partnership with Dapper Hobo Dojo, we do get your questions and comments. So if you do have any questions or comments, leave them, I guess, in the field below, and we will respond to them as promptly as we can. We usually edit a few episodes out in order to give ourselves a little breathing room in case there should be accident, illness, injury, calamity, or somebody should not make it to set. But I'd like to thank you for your time as a mentor, as an editor, and as a friend. Bye-bye. I don't care, Mitchell. You're not getting your own show.